passion in people?
I think it's a fairy story set in the 21st century. You have everything that you want there. You know, you can make it a fairy story. You know, it's the people next door. You know, and I don't know, it's good, bad, and ugly. It's just one of those. Well, it's one of the only stories that you can take a 5-year-old to and take a grandma to, and they will still enjoy it, and they will see things different. Each one will see something different on the screen. You know, you go and watch any of them. You see them twice, maybe 3 times. Then just watch the background. The background, especially in 1, 2, and 3, is so fine. You can see the pieces. Typical example would be the pod race. You can see the lumps of motors and pieces coming off those craft, and they stay because of CGI.
Yeah.
They stay as you know, they stay as the form that they've come off on, and that is remarkable to be able to do this. And it just brought, I don't know, it just brought it all back to, you can put almost any story into it, and the philosophy is there. So you know, you can read what you want into it, and hopefully it would, you know, it would come up, and a lot of people would see a lot of things differently.
Well, something that I think a lot of us would agree on is that one of the biggest appeals of Star Wars is actually the characters that populate this fantastic world. They're easy to identify with.
Yep.
And obviously Chewie, you often think of him with Han Solo. I think a lot of people might be interested to know, what was it like, you know, presenting this character who doesn't have dialogue that you can give him yet, probably had to rely upon the other people a little bit to believe in you as this fantastic character, which is...
Yeah, it was remarkable. Obviously, most of my things were done with Harrison. Most of my scenes were done with Harrison and Mark and Gary and Alec. So after a little while, you do get to know people.
Yeah.
And it has. You look at some of those scenes that we do. There has got to be a recognition of interest, or a recognition of this guy's on simpatico.
Yeah.
And therefore, and this comes out after it formed in Star Wars, and it stayed together in Empire, where you know, Han gets put in the carbon freezer. Chewie has to look after Leia and 3PO. The first one is okay. Didn't like that droid. As I say, there is an association with everybody that's there, and it's just, you know, it comes. That's why Empire is, in my opinion, is the better film out of the 3. I don't know what people think, but to me, Empire was a really good movie. I don't know. So, who thinks that? You know, and Jedi, well, that was fine. Little people kept tripping over them. And obviously, by the time they get round to episode 1, it was the first film totally done in digital production. No film, no hard film. It was all done on discs, and it was all CGI'd, totally.
Well, there are some people out there, you know, have their difference of opinion with those first 3 films. Do you think George has changed a lot over the years? Like, what's your relationship with himself?
I was with him a couple of weeks ago, and George is George. You will never change that man. You know, when we were going to go down to Australia to do the episode 3, my wife, she said, "What's George like?" I said, "Well, you know," I described him, and she said, I said, "He'll probably be wearing his same jeans, be wearing his same jeans, plaid shirt, sneakers." Sure enough, 12,000 miles away, get off the plane, go into the studio, and there's George. Sneakers, blue jeans, plaid shirt, jacket. Hadn't changed one iota. But he had got middle-aged spread, I think, is the term. When we were doing the originals, he was very, very active and very thin. Now he is, you know, George, as I say, George has got middle-aged spread on. But he is still the same guy. As I say, I was talking to him at Celebration, and he hasn't changed one iota. You know, he's still there, and he's still wonderful for the fans. He appreciates the fans, what they've done to him, for him, and they just, you know, he says the fans are the films. You know, if you tell him what he wants, he will probably be able to put them in to his stories, and after all, it is Luke Skywalker's story first and foremost. So, you know, as I say, George is George, and he will never, ever change.
Well, maybe we should open it up to the floor, and if anyone has any questions. Guy with the amazing face paint on.
You give us a sample of your grunts and growls?
The growl.
When you were on set, because I know you had to speak to them in some way.
Yeah, English. The growl was put on afterwards.
Oh, I know, but
It was a brown bear with a dog.
oh, I know that, but I'm just saying, I heard that.
That's when he's happy. You'll see him when he's pissed. It was, George didn't want any animals on the set. I was the exception, and he said, "Peter, you speak English, otherwise we won't have any characters left." Next.
Over there, Doctor Who.
Here's Dr. What?
Alec Guinness was the most famous actor at the time. Was it different working with him than it was the other actors?
No, it was, Alec Guinness was an absolute monster. He came onto set every morning. He was fully dressed as Obi-Wan. He would come into the green room area, have a cup of coffee, read his Times newspaper, discuss whatever was going on, and normally, you know, he could discuss anything with anybody else. Harrison, maybe a little bit similar. Mark and Kerry, well, they were youngsters, and I'm not going to go any further than that. The nearest one to him was, we were in episode 3, and I'm in a dressing room, and the door opens, and Christopher Lee pokes his head in and shakes my hand. I turn around, and there is Christopher Lee dressed as Count Dooku. "Hello, my name is Christopher Lee. I believe you have more lines than I do." Holy sh! There he was. dressed as Count Dooku. That is the only, that was one of my childhood heroes. Having met Alec, you know, he's a nice guy, he was perfect, and he would accept if he did something wrong, he'd apologise to everybody, and then go out and do it again, and it would be perfect. So he is, you know, as I say, he is one of those heroes that you've lived with, but to actually meet Chris Lee was a wonderful experience. So, anybody else?
Maybe right up front here, the glasses.
You can tell me what nationality you are and how tall you are?
I'm a little Brit. I'm a little Brit. A little Brit, about 7'2". I'm English.
Why don't you put your outfit on, like is it zipped up?
She's getting personal. She's getting personal.
If you couldn't hear the question, she asked how he gets dressed. A little personal, maybe.
I've got two midgets that come in. Two midgets come in. One stands on his shoulders. Oh, careful. Luckily, I bend down, so well, we won't go into that.
All right. There we go at the back and up.
What was your favorite scene to shoot in all the movies?
Favourite? Probably the chess game. Purely because you've got a chess table, and 3PO's there, R2's here, Chewie's there, chess game going on. Cameras all over the place because it wasn't only one shot. They had all the stuff that Harrison was doing, as well as Mark and Alex playing with the bat and ball, playing with the lightsaber. All that was shot at the same time. So you can imagine, we're sitting there waiting. There must have been a dozen cameras. So we're sitting there and someone shouts, action. And I thought, how are we going to do this? So I talked to one of the technicians. I said, look, there's nothing on the checkers board. He said, don't worry about it. We'll put that in afterwards. Me in suit, never played chess before, having to concentrate and work out how you were going to do this, and looking at the angles of the cameras and stuff. So you couldn't move very far because you've got a headshot at that size. It was just a question of doing it and hoping above hope that it would be right. Another one would be when, on Empire, when the doors close and Chewie's under the Falcon and he's leaning against the ladder and he hears those immortal words, close the doors. And suddenly you hear bang. Chewie lets out the biggest roar ever. That wasn't me. But that was so emotional. Even if I watch it now, I cry. I don't know why. That was a fairly emotional moment. There's been a few I could go through. Or the other one is when Chewie is trying to mend the top end of the Falcon. He's up on there with the arc welder. And the thing was that the Falcon was wooden, and it had a sheet of tin on the top of it. And it had been there for so long that they greased it over. And you couldn't get an arc weld onto the grease. So we had to wipe the grease off before. And there's Kirsch up there showing me how to do it. So I got this full suit of full welding goggles on and a line electric lead. I was thankful that people had told me that the suit was fireproof. Otherwise, kill it.
Good to know.
Anyway,
Right.
So were there several Chewbacca suits, and if there were, did you get to keep them?
If anyone didn't hear that at the back, she asked if there were several Chewbacca suits and if Peter got to keep any.
no, there were the original suits. I think there were two complete suits, which includes the head and the boots and the leotards underneath them. No, I didn't get to keep them because they have their own air-conditioned unit up at Skywalker Ranch, and they were too valuable to keep anywhere else. And you know, I worked on the premise. You don't take work clothes home. It gets fed and watered far nicer up there than it would do. It was, you know, at that particular time, who knew when they were being offered, who knew what this movie was going to be about? Nobody realised the success of it. Anybody else?
Great.
Yes, sir.
When they put the Tarzan sound in Jedi, what was your feeling about that? When you swung
I didn't learn this for about 5 years. You know, you do the movies. How many times do you actually go and see them? Not that often. I was out in California and someone said, "Oh, want to go to this recording studio." Okay. And walked in, and there's this guy with a tape machine, and he gets introduced to the guy that actually put the Tarzan yell into it. I had no idea what that was. You know, it was a small thing. You saw Chewie walk, go across, and you know there's so much noise going on around it that you just that's strange. You know, but you don't particularly worry about it. So,
Actually, I had a quick question for you.
Yes.
When you're mentioning the Chewie costume being kept in such good conditions, and you also talked with George recently, any insight as to perhaps the next batch of films? What's the current thinking on that, if anything?
I couldn't tell you.
Couldn't tell me, all right.
I know
Can you blame me for asking, really?
I know that there are certain things in the pipeline,
Mm-hmm.
but you know, you hear these rumours that they're talking about live-action TV,
Yeah.
and also 3D TV has been mentioned, but you didn't hear it from me.
I'll put those videos on YouTube. I see all the cameras.
I know nothing. There's such a... Well, when you think about it, he's done the original films. He's now done the cartoon series. What's next? Only George knows. You know, his brain works at 120 miles an hour, I think, because he's always going into other things. As I say, it could be live action TV. If it is, there is always that question: will Chewie be in amongst it? And as far as I know, I want to say is yes. As long as I can walk, Chewie will be there. So
Nice.
we hope.